I suppose like since then, obviously, kind of when you were touching on it there, like Dublin have obviously, been very dominant in Leinster the past couple of years. And I know obviously
Yeah.
Andy McEntee was on the Sunday game recently, like with Pat Gilroy, where they were kind of discussing the dominance of Dublin. Like, what do you make of yourself? Like, and does it worry you maybe how far ahead they are? And do you think maybe that's, there could be some things that could be done to maybe try and slow that dominance down?
No, I'm more worried about why teams haven't caught up with them. More so, Dublin are one of the best run organisations I've ever seen. You've never seen a row from a Dublin camp. You never see anyone, falling out. You don't see anything coming outside of the camp. You don't see anything from the county board that's a mess. It's all streamlined to one goal, and that's Dublin in general being successful. If it's at the ladies team, the men's team, the hurling team, the under 20 team, underage setup, and it's just incredible, and you've got to stand up and take your hat off to them and say, look, this is 20 years. And yes, they've had a lot of funding, but what you do now is you start spreading the funding that is available to every other county that needs it. And if that's Meath, if Meath needs 10 million, and it's available through certain avenues, and that's fine. And that's what needs to be done. We need to get to a level. We need to put things in place as a county, as do other counties. You look at Kerry competing. Kerry should have won 2 or 3 of them All Irelands, no doubt about it. They should have won the year before last, the first game. And it's not as if Dublin are going off and beating Mayo by 10 points. They're not beating Kerry by 10 points. They're not beating, they're the teams who are competing, and they're the top teams at the minute. 10 years ago, teams were beating, say, your mediocre teams by 10 or 15 points, but there was no one saying, oh, we should cut back Tyrone's funding, and that's not the case. It's because they put so much emphasis on it. They're on about population. You look at population 50 years ago with Kerry and Dublin, it's probably the same ratio. It's the same, and it's just Kerry have a mindset, Dublin have a mindset at the minute, and they've created it through an incredible ethos over the last 15 years. What they've done, the players are literally, mentally so strong. They don't falter at any hurdle. And it just goes to show when you look like Brian Fenton, like he's unbeaten in championship football. It's ridiculous. Like, it's unheard of. It probably will never be heard of again. And I don't know when he's going to lose a championship game, because it's not going to be till hopefully towards the end of this championship season, but it's not going to be for another 4 or 5 games anyway. And it might not even happen this year, but I've only massive respect for Dublin, and it's hard for me, man, to say that, but you've got to stand up and say, look, this is what they've done. They haven't done it overnight. They've done it over 20 years, and they've just kept it rolling. They pumped the money into them. Yes, the GAA did do that, but Dublin spent the money in the right places. I had a figure there the other day. We'd something like 40 million over the last 10 years that Meath have had. 40 million is a lot of money. And if you say, where's it gone? You're like, well, here, there, yeah, and there's a lot of fine infrastructures that have been put in place and certain things like that. But has it all gone to the right place to make the right decisions to make Meath football and Meath hurling and everyone else, the Meath 20s, the ladies team, everything better? I don't think so. So we've got to look at that as a Meath setup as well. And it's look, it's hard to take, but we just have to try and start competing again and start doing things the right way, because Dublin have done it. They will do it. I don't think. Look, they'll try and do something to counteract it, but what can you do? You can't split Dublin in 4. You can't split them in 2. That's just ridiculous. The funding, yeah. The funding's there because the funding has already been put in place through clubs and the coaches, and the structures are in place anyway. They've massive sponsorship set up, so it's going to roll. I think it's even Leinster find it hard to struggle. Leinster Rugby find it hard to struggle as a commercial entity with Dublin. That's how well tuned they are. So it's, look, we could talk about it all day, but that you just got to hand it to them. And plus, look, the players are fantastic as well that they have. Everyone's saying about this and that, but they're some of the best footballers that will play the game ever. And you've got to take that in consideration with everything that comes together. It's hard for them not to be. Well, I'm not just saying that, but they've got to have the players to have the mindset to be able to do everything that they're doing. And I was only chatting with Daniel Davey, who's a sports nutritionist for the last 8 years, and he's a good friend of mine. He was just, they just do everything that's expected of them as high performing athletes. Don't have to be asked, they do it. They set their standards, and he said every single one of them, and that's the difference. The players do, and they lead, and they just make it a lot easier. Obviously with Jim Gavin there, fantastic manager. You know, look, you've one of the best managers ever managed as well, and it's just, you know, everything coming together. It does sort of, it's hard to compete then.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed the hit on the head there, like towards the end there. Like it definitely was a combination of a number of things, and I think Dublin have almost built their own brand in many ways, and I think that's one of the reasons that's led them to be as successful as they are now. Like, what kind of advice would you give to any of the kind of young players on that Meath team at the minute? Like, obviously, when they got beat by Dublin, you know, it was kind of a lot of people were saying different things in the media about Meath and different bits and that. Like, what kind of advice would you give to some of those young lads like George Morris and you know, Matthew Costello and whatnot, who are coming through at the moment?
Yeah, and look, I spoke to them over the last year, and it's just believe you can do it, believe you can compete at that highest level, and don't take a step back. The time you take a step back is the time you'll show weakness, and the time you'll show a Dublin player or even a Kildare player that, you know, we have this here. And you have to believe you can be competitive, no matter if you're playing Dublin, who have won 6 All-Irelands in a row. Makes no difference. You have to stand man to man, toe to toe with the player American and go out and do it. And we have the players to do it. It's just, I think it's more belief. Roll in, if we can load a few more players through, you know, believe we can be competitive. And if that happens, on a bad day for Dublin and a very good day for me, we could beat them. And that's where you have to start. You have to take these small things, get back competitive. And Andy, it must be killing Andy, because Andy's so competitive and Andy wants to win the whole time. And it is hard against Dublin because they're so good. But we just have to go at them, you know, and that's not just having a complete ridiculous mindset. We just go toe-to-toe with Dublin. It's not. You have a game plan in place, but you still stand up to them as well and not step back. And the times that teams have done that, they've been successful, you know, and put the pressure on the kickouts and stuff like that. And look, it is hard for young players coming into a setup that's not successful. And that's the thing, you know, how do you create that atmosphere to say, right, let's go commit 5-6 nights a week to us and we're going to be successful. And it is. And teams outside of like Dublin, Kerry, Mayo that haven't been successful over the years, it's hard for lads to commit to that, but you'll enjoy every single minute of it if you put that time in. And that's what I would say. Like we were there for a number of years and we weren't as successful as we would have liked to be, but we enjoyed it and we enjoyed competing to be able to become successful.